Welcome to the Evergirl Wins Life Literacy Show. On today's show, I have financial life literacy expert Deborah Daniels. Deborah is absolutely amazing. Her and I have known each other for so long. Deborah brings more than 27 years of experience as founder and CEO of Charter Accounting and Tax Services, a full service CPA firm based in Atlanta, Georgia, with clients all over the country. Deborah brings a unique blend of financial expertise, real world authenticity, and practicality to help her clients really understand and master the whole money equation. Her goal is to help clients make more money, keep more money, and grow more money. Deborah, welcome to the Evergirl Win Show Life Literacy Show.
I am so glad to be here. I just love the topic of money, and I love the spin of literacy, because the thing is, it really is a topic that people are afraid to talk about, and there's a lot of shame around it because they don't really. I mean, we're not taught about this. There's no mechanism in our formal education system for people to really learn these rules. I mean, I'm one of the most highly educated financial people you're going to meet. I mean, I have an MBA, I'm a CPA, and I didn't learn a lot of this stuff, from that formal education. I mean, it's really a matter of you have to go out there and find this information.
Oh, absolutely. And you and I have talked about this before, of financial life literacy. Is when you teaching it, you can't find anything, and they don't teach this in regular schools.
Right.
They don't even teach the basics in school of financial life literacy.
4% of high schools in the country, and I need to verify that, but the last time I checked, 4% of high schools in the country do have some kind of personal finance information. 4% is not that great. And I've listened in on some of what they're teaching, and I would say it's not really exactly what they should be teaching as far as to get people the basics. So right. Maybe it's like 0%.
Well, for those that are listening that doesn't know about Evergirl Wins Institute, what we are is a personal and professional development training educational institution. And we base it on 5 ultimate gifts of life literacy. And that's identify, understand, create, collaborate, and communicate. That's what we base those on. How our teachings is we do the inside to the outside. That's how we work it. But today what we're going to talk about is financial life literacy, because we have an amazing expert on that. So Deborah, I travel around the world and I teach people around the world my program. And one of the things that in class that I found out in many countries that they don't teach financial life literacy, but what they're stuck on is this: loans, interest loans. What many of my students don't realize, when they take a loan out, that they can pay the principal off faster. If they pay it just on the, more on the principal, they can get it paid off faster. So give us a little explanation of that, of how that works.
Well, sure. I mean, to me, I'm not anti-leverage, which basically is what loans get you. I mean, if we waited until we all could buy a house, no one would ever have a house, right? I mean, we need to use loans sometimes, but I think there's a couple of key things that you have to think about when it comes to a loan. One, I don't like loans for things that are just disposable. If you can't afford something in your personal life, don't borrow for that. But if you can borrow money so that you can start a business, or you can buy a building, or you can do something that you're going to have what I call return on investment, or ROI. I mean, everything that we do should have some kind of return on investment, be it our money, be it our time, be it our relationships. You have to have a reason for everything you're doing it. So say you do need this loan, but the way loans work, obviously, somebody has the money, they're giving it to the other person to use. I mean, that's how our whole system works. We put money into a bank and they pay us a little bit of interest. Then the bank takes that and lends it out for car loans or credit card loans or whatever, and they're making a difference in the interest, right? Well, the faster you pay the principal, the quicker the interest is paid off. So, I mean, it's like, even if you look on a credit card statement, it says, if you make the minimum payment this month, it will take you 36 years to pay off this balance. I mean, obviously nobody wants to pay for 36 years for a purse that they bought, right? So it is really a time kind of thing. People that are wealthy understand the time value of money and use it to their advantage, not to their disadvantage. They start saving early and let that interest compound on those balances as they're going. The exact opposite happens on a loan, right? I mean, the longer you have it, the more interest you're paying. It's like when you go to get a mortgage and you're signing all these papers, and you're signing a lot of them, and it shows, okay, if you're going to pay $300,000 in interest, you're like, oh my gosh, my loan was only $200,000. But if you wait and pay it over 30 years, you're going to pay more in interest than you ever even borrowed them.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that, most people don't understand, especially when they're living paycheck to paycheck and they're taking these micro loans and different loans out. They don't understand, what the consequences is for not paying for that.
And you can't borrow your lifestyle. I mean, you will never get out of a hole if you're borrowing money to cover your monthly expenses.
Right.
You can't do it.
Exactly. Now, again, what I want to ask you is another question is, like I said, I travel around the world and I teach these around the world, and it's financial life literacy. And a lot of women and females of the world need to know how to, finance, how to finance, save money, how to, do their budgets and everything like that. Tell me, or tell the audience, what is the importance of females around the world knowing financial life literacy.
Oh, well, I mean, we all need to know it. I mean, the thing that I see is that women lag behind men a little bit on this, on taking the role. I mean, taking the lead role in a lot of parts of their life, but especially in the money side. It's funny. I have a lot of clients where, and I think the statistic is, I don't know, at some point it moved to more women are the primary breadwinner in the family than men. It's over 50%. It flip-flopped a few years ago. And even in that scenario, as I'm sitting here with clients and say that the wife is making the bigger portion of the income, they still defer too much to to their spouse to make financial decisions. So we're never going to have the power or the voice that we want. I mean, if we want a seat at the proverbial table, where decisions are being made, this is a pay to play world. I mean, it just is. And until women have the financial wherewithal, knowledge, power, they're not going to, that's really where the problem is. I mean, we have to get that financial confidence, that financial strength, so that we can have that say in the whole program.
Yeah. And so the financial literacy, you're saying, the strength and, getting your feet
knowledge and strength, right? I mean, so that to me is, you have to get the knowledge. You have to understand the rule of 72, which has to do with the interest that you were talking about, how money doubles based on different things. You have to understand compound interest. You have to understand the difference between borrowing and saving and investing, because it's very different to be saving and investing. Saving is just to have for a little emergency fund that you can get your hands on right away. Investing is the next step. Once you've already saved some and you have that emergency fund that you're starting to now take care of your long-term goals.
Right, exactly. And so, teaching this, what would be the number one excuses that women make about not wanting to know their finance? Because you and I have talked about this before.
Excuses. Well, I mean, women always say they have too much to do. I mean, that they don't have time, that they're the primary caregivers, which is true. But the reality is, time is the ultimate equalizer. We all only have 24 hours in a day. I mean, so if men can learn about it and have the time to learn about it, then obviously women have the time to do that as well, right?
Right.
So that's an excuse that people have. Or, I mean, I think there still is a little bit of prevalence of, even in the classroom, teachers favoring boys when it comes to math and things like that, or having a bias towards the male students versus the female students. Right. You wouldn't think that would be the case in 2020, but it still is the case.
It is still the case. now we talking about the math classes and things like that, with financial. I don't see with my 3 kids when they went through school, they're 36. I'm gonna tell her she's 34 because I say 35 yet. Just in a couple months, she's gonna get me. And I have a 30-year-old son. And now my grandkids are going through, the same thing. I have a 16-year-old, I have a 14, 13, 10 and 8, and one is in a few months. Well, he's due November 22nd, but I swear he's going to be due Halloween Day. So, of the 6. And what I see is them still not teaching. They're not even teaching, how to do a check registry.
Right. Yeah, no, that's not even coming up. Well, and I think things are changing just a little bit too. I mean, because honestly, I mean, how many paper checks are you really seeing or doing anymore? Maybe think about e-commerce, but they need to teach them. I mean, it's funny. I started talking about financial literacy about, gosh, I've been doing the whole accounting business numbers thing for almost 30 years. But probably when my kids, who are now 22 and 18, got to be about 10, 11, 12, is when I started noticing that they didn't understand how money worked, that they didn't get that there wasn't this money tree out in the backyard. And when they wanted stuff, we just went and pulled it down, or, when they said they wanted something, they're like, well, put it on the credit card.
But Mom, it's there.
Yeah, but they don't understand. Kids don't understand that there is you have to pay I mean, it's not like you're just putting it on plastic and it isn't happening. So kids don't understand that this is just really a borrowing. I mean, and, just the whole concept of borrowing, people the young people just don't get. I mean,
they absolutely don't get that. And, like my kids, like I think everybody's kids, they think there's a money tree out there. And, I think, still older kids think that there's a money tree out there, but there's no money tree out there.
And I was just looking because I posted something on Instagram and I was just looking at, it was about financial tips for young adults, but it was talking about, self-control. I mean, the thing is, that's a big thing with money that I think people don't get is you can maybe have it all. You just sometimes can't have it all at the same time. And when it comes to money, you've really got to prioritize, what are the things that are important? You've got to cover your basics first, right? You've got to make sure that you take care of your housing and your food and your clothing and stuff like that. Then you could worry about the bigger things. So you've got to have some self-control because that's where people really get themselves into trouble in finances and with debt is they can't hold off. They want instant gratification. And we're in such an instant gratification society. You post something, you get something, you Amazon Prime it, and you've got it delivered in 5 minutes. That's a hard concept.
I mean, this phone right here can instantly, and it's been, it's been kind of a lifesaver, but I've realized how easily that it has been just to, when I need something from Amazon, I know I'm going to get it the next day, or DoorDash delivering food, that I don't feel like cooking I say it's not me, it's my husband. We do DoorDash, it's my husband's time to cook.
Right. But you see how easy that is. I mean, before at least there was the exchange where you saw this is all happening in the cloud. I mean, we're ordering stuff, things are being delivered. They don't see that. I like the word currency. It's a kind of an old-fashioned word, but currency, and the main person in charge of money in the US is the comptroller of the currency. That refers to the flow of money back and forth. But we're not even seeing that flow of money back and forth now. I mean, because it's all happening out there in cyberspace. We're not handing a check to someone. We're not even having to see that commerce happening.
And I know you and I have been in business almost the same time. I've been in business almost 26 years. You've been in business 27, 28 years. And when we started our business, for years, it was still the check registry. You can still see, but in the last couple of years, it seems like maybe the last 5-10 years, things that we used to do were we used to keep track of it. And it's all of a sudden, out of sight. Sometimes it's out of sight, out of mind. And I think that that's where a lot of people get financially, in trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you say that about being in business for so long, because I mean, I saw a statistic recently. There's like 5 generations in the workforce really right now. And if you think about, I mean, we're kind of in the middle of that. I mean, where we are, if you think about how hard this topic is to begin with, and then you've got this audience that spans, basically birth through now most, often many people are living to be 85 or 90 and think of the life experiences of that difference. I mean, of what's happened in the past, decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. I mean, everything has changed. And you have to put on top of that a topic that people just don't even talk about, that they're embarrassed to sit around and say, what are you doing with your money? How are you investing? People of course aren't going to talk about how much money they make, right? I mean, those are conversations that need to happen, because it's like anything else, out of sight, out of mind. Also, what you don't talk about doesn't mean it isn't happening, right?
Yeah, because you and I have talked about this with my teachings, and when I tell my students, I said and a lot of women are afraid to look at the numbers.
Oh,
yeah. And
exactly. And I mean, I say this all the time. The numbers aren't the sexy part of your business, but it's kind of what makes it go around, right? I mean, it is sexy to see your business bank account going up because you're selling a lot to people. And that's where people really get into trouble, I think, there's a lot of financial experts out there that are like, turn off your lights, eat ramen noodles, don't ever go to the movies. I mean, you cut your expenses to build wealth, right? And of course, you don't want to be wasting money on things, but I mean, you're never going to get a huge nest egg. You're never going to grow a big future by cutting, eating at McDonald's instead of at a sit down restaurant, by turning off your lights. When it really comes down to it is you've got to take the earnings power into your own hands. I mean, the biggest thing is, what can you do to earn money? I mean, that was the responsibility on the individual, and that could be in a career, that could be in a business, or it could be in a career and a side business. I mean, you've got to look for opportunities to make the inflow is the biggest important thing, I think, that people need to focus on. And when you're thinking about what you're going to do for your career, you have to like it, obviously, but is this something that's going to provide enough income for me to support my family?
Yes, and I totally agree with you, on that. It's, for me, what I teach with Every Girl Wins, I teach the economic part, but then we go into the entrepreneurship part of that, because they have to know the money in order to know how to start and run, a business on that. And not only, the business part, you need to also know on your financial part, because what happens with a lot of times, with business, we are in business for our personal reasons, but we have to separate the two. And a lot of people don't know how to separate those two.
Right. But the reality is, I've never in almost 3 decades seen a super successful business when the owner or owners does not have their personal finances together. It's almost mutually exclusive. I mean, if you've got a lot of personal debt, or you can't run a budget, or you can't live within your means on your personal, that's going to carry over into your business. I mean, one, because you're not going to be able to borrow money when you need it to grow your business, because your credit is messed up over on the personal side. I mean, you can't do it. You can't be a fish and fly. You can't be a bird and swim. You've got to have your finances together. You got to have the right environment on both sides.
Yes. And you also, if as a family, your partner, you have to sit down with each other. And this is one thing that, I also teach you, your family, you have to sit down, and it's just not one sided. Both have to come together and say, okay, this is what's going on. This is the finances, and I know, for me, my husband and I, we share all bank accounts, but I know some people out there don't share bank accounts. We share, everything that comes in, it goes all into one, but I know some people don't, but you still, even if you don't, you still have to sit down and say, okay, this is what's going on, our finances, and see what can happen.
Exactly. Yeah. I have some tax clients that literally, and it's often sometimes a second marriage or whatever, but they want to know exactly of the refund or the who owes what. I mean, and some things are so mixed together on your tax return, it's really almost impossible to separate it out into two. But I'm like, you're married. It's kind of both of you.
When you marry, isn't it, as one? That's what I always thought.
But, the reality is, a lot of relationships are broken up over money. I mean, and I see that all the time. Like back when 2008 happened, when people came in right after that, it was total collapse of the financial markets, and everybody was impacted pretty much. I saw so many more divorces in that next year, because when maybe they wouldn't have gotten. I mean, it wasn't only about the money, but all of a sudden, when the money is an issue, their stocks on the floor become a little bit bigger of an issue. I mean, it really does impact so many things. Again, it's not all about money, but everything important is impacted by it.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to change subjects.
Sure.
Now, you're that financial life literacy, expert, and
Mhm.
that's something that I've always known you to be. That's what you've branded yourself in. I mean, we met, 2000, I met in 2015.
I
I
think,
think
yeah,
it's
14 or
2015.
15. Sure.
14, 15, no, we had 15 because that's when I became the managing director.
Okay.
Yeah, and we met at eWomen Network. We both were managing directors. She was the managing director of the Atlanta chapter, and I was the managing director of the Charlotte chapter. So that's how we met, and we've been great friends ever since. And we're actually have a partnership that we're actually going to be rolling out. And if she wants to mention it, I'll let her mention it. We'll be rolling it out, next week. But this is a
Mhm.
partnership that her and I have worked on
Mhm.
kind of back and forth. 2018, business got in the way, life got in the way, but COVID, I think, made us sit down and say, okay,
Exactly.
let's do this.
Exactly. Yeah, we can mention a little bit at the end about our new
Okay,
platform that we're going to be having and the other show that we'll be doing.
absolutely. But I want to talk about collaboration.
Sure.
Okay, because networking is all about collaboration. And I believe strongly in collaboration. And every business that I am in now, or every business that I've been in before, I've had some sort of collaboration, because what I know is, and I always tell people this analogy: you have two tables, you have two pies, you have one person eat one pie, and you have a team over here of five eating another pie. Who's going to eat that pie faster? It's going to be a team of five, and it's also going to take away a lot of stress, because you're doing so much. And they say it takes seven streams of income, to make it in life, and the way you
Right,
need,
right.
in life.
Yeah,
So, and that's why I say, if you're going to have seven streams of income, you better make sure you got a collaboration partner with each and every one of those, because there's no way that you can,
exactly.
do seven businesses at one time. So
Exactly.
tell me your thoughts on, collaboration.
Well,
Because
I mean, collaboration is the key to, you cannot, it goes back to the whole idea of even debt and leverage, right? We can, if we waited until we could, like I said, buy a house, we would never come up with the money. If we waited until we could do all the parts of of even one stream of revenue, forget seven. I mean, if we waited until we could handle everything ourselves, no one would ever get off Go. It'd be like Monopoly and everybody's still standing there on Go. Like, I don't know what to do. I mean, and I think I do a lot of speaking. I talk a lot on money, but I also have one talk that I talk about. It's called Your Network Equals Your Net Worth. Because the thing is, when you have, just like building this wealth of money, I think it's really important. The next level is building a wealth of relationships, so that when you do try to do any kind of a project, you have your people that you can call. I mean, like right now with the new collaboration that Christine and I are doing in our new True Networking, which we'll talk a little bit more about. I mean, we're going to have guests on our show. I can get on my phone and text right now, and we already have guests scheduled for the next 3 months. I mean, that's the importance of having that wealth of relationships, right? And I
Right.
just think collaborations, it comes, I like your pie analogy, but I always say 1 + 1 = 3, right? I mean, it's in a situation where we're able to leverage our resources, leverage our knowledge, and
Right.
it becomes better than the two of us individually,
Right. Exactly.
or three of us, or five of us. It just gets exponential.
Yeah, of how many it is, but I'm a huge believer in collaboration also, and I believe in, when I started my business, RC Mobile Truck Repair Service, not the Ever Girl Wins, but I own a truck repair company that my husband and I have founded about almost 26 years ago. And then when I started, people would say, you need to network, you need to go out there and network, but I never knew how to network. Because it was never taught. So, just finding those people, the right people to network with, that's going to pull you along with them, as as you're pulling each other. That's the type of people that I socialize myself with.
Exactly. I think a perfect situation is when you are in a place where some people that you are in your circle are pulling you along, some people are below you that you're pulling along, and it becomes this. You want to have people in your life that you are being mentored by, you want to have people that you are peers with, and you want to have people that you are mentoring. I mean, that's when you have a full network, when you have all of those pieces, I think, in part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that, one of the 5 elements of, the life literacy that I teach with the Every Girl Wins is collaboration. And how we teach this is through one of the programs is called Cap It. And Cap It is pretty much putting a cap on climate control projects, because around the world, especially a lot of these developing countries, this climate is really affecting the women, the females of the world, where they have to walk further to get the water, or walk further to do this, through different things. So that's one of the things that I teach them of collaboration, is getting a team together and figuring out what it is that's wrong, in their community, and, building that team together and fix that climate control, problem that's going on in their community. So that's one of the things that I teach, with Every Girl Wins.
Right. I love that.
On that. But if you want, I'll let you talk a little bit about true networking and what that's going to be, about, and, with our partnership.
Right. Well, we've been talking about true networking for a while. We're going to start out with a twice a month show where we're going to be bringing some people on, kind of more of a, not just one-on-one conversation like Christine and I are having here. It'll be a little bit more of a panel where we're getting some different views. And that's going to be where we kind of launch things. But what we want is for people to really deepen those relationships, really figure out ways that they can work with each other, and actually go beyond just the passing of cards, passing of contacts. Where can we be a little bit deeper? We're going to have a lot of coaching in what we're doing, a lot of programs that, masterminds and things like that are going to actually take the people that jump into our community and help them accelerate to the next level, beyond just passing out cards, beyond just passing, let's connect on Facebook, let's connect on LinkedIn or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to call it, the luxury key to success. The luxury key to success. So, being, men directors in the networking and business 26 years. And we call it true networking because it's like, some people just don't know how to do true networking. Right. So that's how we came up with this. So my next question is going to be to you is, on March the 13th, I have a proclaimed day, and I will be celebrating my second year, March the 13th, 2021. It's called International Every Girl Wednesday. Oh, I'm always so excited when I talk about that. And what we stand for is for freedom and equal opportunities for females around the world. And awesome. What we also stand for, education, life literacy. We stand for healthcare, life literacy. We stand for economic life literacy, and we also stand for entrepreneurship life literacy. Since we've already kind of talked about the financial part of it, what I want to talk to you about is the entrepreneur part, because you have been an entrepreneur, like I said, 20 some years, and you have other you're kind of like me. Sometimes I call myself a serial entrepreneur.
Exactly. I just introduced myself at a meeting a little while ago as a serial entrepreneur. I mean, there's been a consistency of topic, of type of business, but I would be a very poor corporate person after this long, because I've lived the entrepreneurial life basically my entire working life. I think I had one really career job prior to this. But to me, it goes back to what I said about you can't save your way into wealth. You have to, it's the inflows, and the easiest way, the most possibilities to getting those inflows differently, to get that 7 streams of income, is through entrepreneurship. But I also think it's beyond just the revenue side. I think it's a lifestyle. I mean, not everyone should be an entrepreneur. I mean, I love it. I wish everybody could do it. But there are certain people, I mean, talk about money self-discipline. Wow. I mean, entrepreneurship is like the epitome of self-discipline, because there's not someone giving you a performance review. Your performance review is, am I making any money? I mean, and so that's a little bit harder. And I kind of call it the hunter-gatherer lifestyle versus the harvester lifestyle. I mean, like, to me, to be an entrepreneur, you have to be good at sales. And I mean, sales, and I think women have a hard time with this. That breaks my heart when I see women out there killing themselves trying to own a business, working 80, 90, 100 hours a week to avoid a 40-hour job with somebody else. This may not be the thing for you if you can't, figure out a way to do it in a regular, so you have another life, right? I mean, we work to live, not live to work. Although I would say most people that are drawn to the entrepreneurial life kind of mix those lines a little bit, because they generally tend to be like, I was telling somebody the other day, I think I posted, do what you love and the money and success will follow, right? That's easier to do as an entrepreneur. I mean, if you don't like a customer, you can fire that customer. When you are working for a company, you have to do whatever work they give you. But back to the hunter-gatherer thing, entrepreneurs out there going and finding the work, right? You have to keep finding the work. It's when you're an employee, you're harvesting what somebody else did, right? You're just, they're giving you the task, that's happening. And I think there's different personalities. We all have different personalities, and some people are not meant for this life, but there's a lot of awesome entrepreneurs that need those harvesters to work with them to handle the detail stuff that they may not want to. But the entrepreneur life, I think, it's a life. It's not a way of getting your money.
No. And I mean, go back to the hunting part, and with this COVID-19, one of my other business partners, she says, when it collapsed, because she was in image consultant with tuxedos and stuff, everything it collapsed. She had
no events. We don't need tuxedos too much.
Absolutely nothing. And what she said, and I had to laugh that time, was like, she says, I was literally, she says, I was like a cave woman scratching behind every rock to see what I could find to make money coming in here. Like she says, when I first started my business. And
that has really happened with this COVID. I've seen a real shift in how people are getting their money. Just because, I mean, anyone that was doing anything that touched people, a hairdresser, a massage therapist, a lot of doctors and things. I mean, some doctors were essential services, so they had to keep going. But, if you were a elective, all elective surgery stopped for like two months or whatever. So if you were depending on seeing these people, restaurants, I mean, people that were serving food or the servers and stuff, you had to find another way to get revenue. And that's why I've seen a lot of clients moving into side gigs, or even if they did a service like a hair salon, they're finding a product line that they can get behind that people could still buy, even if they couldn't be cutting their hair right now. I hate the word pivot. I've heard it like 1 million times since COVID started. But the reality is that those of us that are entrepreneurs were able to, I don't want to say pivot, I want to say maneuver. I mean, we're used to having to make course corrections all the time. I think it really hurt a lot of the people. Innovate. Somebody posted it would cost us to be innovative in our business. That's by definition is part of entrepreneurship, is we have to innovate. I mean, that's one of our main roles as an entrepreneur is, there's a million people that do taxes. Why would somebody do taxes with me versus someone else? I mean, you have to bring your secret sauce. You have to innovate. You have to make the process so that they're like, oh my gosh, I would never go anywhere else. I have clients that have moved from the Atlanta, and that's what, I mean, I have clients all around the country, but a lot of them have started with me here, and they were like, I'm moving to California. I wouldn't think of finding somebody there. You have to be innovative. I mean, you can't just do more. You can't just do the regular for people to want to do that. But I think entrepreneurs are a little bit more set up to be able to, I hate the word pivot, so I'm not going to say it, but to change during times like this. But the reality is, if it's not COVID, it could be 2008. It could be, gosh, remember 2000? I mean, we were in business in 2001. Remember what happened? I mean, that was, we had the World Trade Center, we had, the tech bubble. I mean, if it's not, I mean, when the Olympics came to Atlanta in 1996, everybody was working for the Olympics. You couldn't even find somebody to come work for you. It's always, I mean, a pivot. I mean, in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And when this COVID happened, and my husband and I were talking last month, and our business, our truck repair company, really has been exploded here in the last couple of months, and I couldn't put it together. But what we've realized is there's so many people switching careers and entrepreneurship, roles, that they're buying these trucks, because in COVID-19, what's essential? Trucking. So that, and that's what we've come to find out, that's happened a lot with entrepreneurship, with this. But with entrepreneurship, with the Evergirl Wins, what I teach them from the financial life literacy part to the entrepreneur life literacy part is, you don't have to build a business plan or a business like a corporation of Google or Microsoft. It could be, for example, I had one of my students. She has it's called Favor Poultry. The poultry project. It's called Favor Poultry Project, where she raises chickens and she's selling the chickens to other females in her community. And then they're able to put food on their table. And then also they're able to sell, and to make money from that. So it doesn't
eggs or whatever. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it doesn't.
See, that's how business works. Is you're able to. I hate to keep saying the word leverage, but it's like one of my favorite words. You want to be leveraging your time, your resources, your relationships, all that comes. That if you spent your time figuring out what can I leverage today, you're gonna be successful in whatever you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us you've been in business, like I said, almost 27 years, serial entrepreneur that, like I am, and someone that's wanting to start a business, no matter what it is, what would it be? One tip for the females or in our audience that's watching today, what one tip when you start a business would you give them that they need to know now?
Oh, there's so many of them. One, I couldn't be true to my whole message about that it is business by the numbers. Make sure you set up your systems to begin with, because the thing is, the last thing you want to do is actually have a great product or service, start, selling it, and then all of a sudden you're having trouble collecting the money because you didn't set up the right payment systems, or you're at the end of the year, you come into somebody like me and they say, oh, by the way, you owe $30,000. They're like, whoa, because you didn't plan for those taxes and stuff, or you didn't plan to have the systems in place to capture all those expenses and stuff that you're having. So set yourself up right to begin with. It's so much easier to do that than to dig yourself out of a hole. But more globally as an entrepreneur, make sure that you are very clear on the problem that you solve, because people buy solutions. You have to be a solution provider. You have to figure out what is that solution? What is the problem that you're solving? Because people, when it comes down to it, when they weren't getting income during COVID, they had to have certain things. They had to have, housing and food. Obviously we can't all, build houses or whatever, but make sure that you know exactly what you're trying to do for people, because only in serving other people are you going to be successful. I used to hate that and I hate it when women especially are like, oh, they shy away from the sales thing. I just want to serve my client. Well, the reality is you're not going to stay in business if you don't serve your client. That's a given. If you don't serve them, if you don't solve that problem that they need, if you don't do it in a way that makes sense at a price that makes sense, then the rest of the conversation is moot. But the reality is you have to be able to talk to them about the money, to ask them to pay, to ask them to work with you. And that's where I think a lot of people, and Anna is saying people buy solutions. That's really true. But I think where a lot of people get lost is they don't even understand what they're really selling. I hear people all the time in networking meetings, they can't even, after they say their 30 seconds or 1 minute, I'm like, I have no idea what that person does. I'm pretty business savvy. I can pretty much figure out almost anything. I'm like, I have no idea what that person does. So she's never going to sell anything.
And the thing too, we're talking about, networking, being the directors, previous managing directors, what I saw and still in other networking, groups that I've been in, and what I see is people want to take that 30 seconds and put 10 different businesses of what they're into in that one network, and you have no idea what that is. Yeah.
Well, and I think you have to be very clear. You have to, I would say you more than anything need to understand who is your customer, because when you describe who you're trying to work with, people are going to think, oh, I know Sally, or I know Samantha, or whatever. You don't want it to be like, I have no idea who would need that. You've got to almost you've got to be describing your customer avatar more so than even what you do.
Right.
Who can benefit from what I'm doing? That's really important. And I think people try to, again, I do believe in multiple streams of revenue. And I do think that you need to have more than one bucket that everything is coming from. But you're very right about, you can't like vomit 10 things on people. You need to either stay totally in one industry. So, because like my business does almost everything money related. But and again, goes back to collaboration. Some of those things I do with partners. Some of those things I do 100% myself. Some of those I 100% outsource, but it makes sense because it's part of my bundle.
Right.
But the thing is, when I go into a room, people know that I'm going to talk to them about money. I mean, they don't know what money thing I'm going to help them with, but I'm going to talk about money. That's why you have to make sure that people know that you're the jewelry person, you're the cosmetic person, you're the, coach person. I mean, you want to be that persona. I mean, you've got to have that consistent persona. And I think that's where people mess up a lot of the time.
And that's where you have actually branded yourself. And for me, a lot of people don't know my truck repair business company because I don't talk about it much. I mean, rarely I'll talk about it if something comes up or whatever. But people, if you say Every Girl Wins, a lot of people, they know Dr. Kozachuk. That's the Every Girl Wins. But I don't talk about, my truck repair business.
Well, I think a lot of people have several businesses that are more in the background because you could, I mean, there are things that I'm invested in that I get revenue from that I'm not the face of, that I'm not, that isn't related to what I do. But I think, and that's totally fine. I mean, but you want to make sure that the part you're talking about, I mean, there's no reason some of the businesses that I'm involved in don't have customers like one-on-one kind of customers like that. So why would I even talk about that somewhere else? I mean, and I think people, again, are so, I don't know if they're trying to build their own confidence up or what they're trying to do, but they want to just, like I said, vomit all the stuff that they're doing on you. And it doesn't serve them well.
And I like what you say, you're not the face of it, because my husband's the face of the truck repair company. I'm the background person. Don't look at me. I'll do the other part, but not that part. But,
exactly.
Yes. But now, one of the things that I want to talk about real quickly before we close is one of the projects that I have with the Every Girl Wins is called Plant a Garden Project. Now, Plant a Garden Project, what it is, I came up with that with Sir Clyde Rivers, which is my mentor and coach, back when COVID happened, because a lot of women, a lot of females around the world, they were starving more than they were dying from the COVID-19. So what we came up with, and they didn't know how to put food on their table. So we come up with the Plant a Garden Project. If they know how to plant a garden, they can put food on their table. Not only food on their table, but the produce that they grow, the extra, they can actually sell and make extra income.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's one of the, the Plant a Garden projects, that we have with the Every Girl Wins, Institute in that. And if you want to, see that and you want to, donate to that, you can go to my website, which is the everygirlwins.com. You can go to that and donate, sponsor a female and helping them, with the food on their table and, a business, an entrepreneurship business, basically.
I love that. And I could totally see that. I mean, even here, I was thinking that, I'm like, gosh, if things, because remember, even here in the US, some of the grocery stores got pretty low. It wasn't just toilet paper we were out of. there were days that, you could only get one pack of meat or, I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. I was thinking to myself, what if it gets worse? What if, we have no skills even here. We have no tools. We have no knowledge of how to prepare our own, to get our own food. If those truckers that you guys help keep on the road, if they stop bringing this stuff to the grocery store, we're in trouble.
That's true. And talk about, having one thing I remember, my husband and I, when it all happened, we went and we bought 3 big turkeys, right? And we were going to give them one, to our neighbors. And they started to stop us from they only wanted us to buy one, but I was like, this is for the neighbors. So they allowed us to buy 2 others, and we gave them to our neighbors, because at that time when all this started, we didn't know, what was going to happen and everything like that. But,
really, there was a shortage there there was a time, when you went in and you couldn't get everything you needed.
No.
I was blown away by that. That scared. I've just going into the US,
been in that situation.
That concept to stuff not be there when you want to buy it, right?
Yes.
That shook me. I was like, whoa, this is not cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we close, Deborah, give them, something to walk away with, before we close, your experience with financial entrepreneur collaboration. You're what are you thinking right now?
Right. Well, to me, I think this is, I keep saying this to my clients and to my friends and everything. We have to make always lemonade out of the lemons that we're handed. And I feel like 2020 has kind of been a lot of lemons for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, but the biggest thing is in your money, in your health, in your relationships is action. I mean, the people that are going to come out of this the most strong, the winners are the ones that didn't sit back and kind of let this paralyze us. Because I think it would be very easy. I'm calling this a generational, if not a lifetime event. I think it would be very easy to kind of curl up and just say, oh, well, when it's over, I'll start doing something again. The thing is, we don't know when that's going to be over. I do think we're seeing, a lot of better things and things here in Atlanta. We're having live events again, a little bit smaller, not big ones, but, and we've, the one good thing about COVID was the traffic really got a lot better, but I was out yesterday. I'm like, okay, COVID traffic is over. It's back. But I think always, whether it be COVID, whether it be the financial markets, whether it be, the Olympics being in town, you taking action on a little bit of action every day towards your goals. I mean, I actually have a Facebook group that I put together was 2020 100-day challenge. I went on Facebook Live 100 days left and said, hey, we've got 100 days left. We can either say, forget it, I'm going to worry about it in 2021, or we can take action every day, something little to get it. Because think about it, 100 days, one little thing towards eating better, towards making more money, towards improving a relationship, 100 little things, how far you could be. So it's always action. I mean, everybody has good intentions.
Yeah, I'm in that group, and when you made that group, I was like, well, I'm still not done yet because you and I are this, that's going on. But I said, after this, I'm not taking on any more projects until the first of the year. Then after the first of the year, but I'm planning. This 3 months is my planning process.
Right. Don't you think that's where most people mess up, though? I mean, whether it be in entrepreneurship, whether it be in their money, whether it be in their health, or they're like, oh, well, I'll start on the diet next week, or today. I mean, what's wrong with today, and what's wrong with a small thing? If you wait until you have everything together or you have all the answers, nobody's ever going to do anything.
Yes. When I was a personal trainer, I had the personal training studio in the gym, that people would say, well, I'm going to start on Monday. Well, why not start now? Monday comes, you're not, now is now. And it reminded me, my niece here last week was here. She's 17 and she was there, and she's, going to start, exercising stuff again. But I had ordered McDonald's for everybody. I done the DoorDash thing for everybody. So she's sitting there. She said, well, I don't want to eat the apple pie. And her mom goes, well, you can start, your diet tomorrow, you exercise and stuff. She says, well, what about right now? That's what's wrong with people. We need to start it right now. I was like, that just kind of clicked on me. It's like, I kind of needed that reminder of that. I don't need to wait till tomorrow or next week. I get to start it now.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that.
Now is the perfect time for anything. I tell people, when I see a lot of clients that are in their 50s and 60s and they don't have their finances together where retirement is going to be set the way they want it to be. And that's sad to me. But the thing is, obviously, the best time to start preparing for the long-term goals is as soon as you start earning money. But the second best time is today. I mean, why wait another time? I mean, there's not a reason to not make a step, some kind of step towards that. And maybe it's just doing a little research. Maybe it's just listening to a show like this and getting one good idea.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I want to take this moment, Deborah, to, thank a few of our audience listeners that's listening and watching us today. I want to thank Dr. Anana, my travel partner. She's my travel partner in crime. We have good travel together to Guyana and Burundi and places like that. And I want to thank Dr. Femi. We actually met in London, but I didn't think we actually really got to meet me. But I remember you being in London. And we have some Facebook users that the names are not popping up to me. I think it's a new StreamYard. If you don't, hit agree to pop your name up there, it's not coming up there. And I also want to thank Isabella from Uganda. Isabella, I miss you, girl. But they're all amazing. And we also have Reverend Dorcas Gavad from Kenya. So I want to thank, and if I haven't called your name, that's because the Facebook user is popping up Facebook users, not popping up your name. So if
I saw a lot of comments going across though. So people are definitely watching.
Yeah. So I can't see it. But if you have any questions for Deborah regarding finance, put it here. She can answer it, or message me and I will get that to her. That way, if you have any questions about, financial life literacy, of what she's talked about today, because I guarantee her she's excellent. She's been doing it for 27 years. And, I can't think of a better financial life literacy expert to have on the show than her. I mean, she's absolutely incredible. But I want to thank you all again for watching the Every Girl Wins Life Literacy Show. If you want to know more about the Institute, go to everygirlwins.com and it will tell you all about Every Girl Wins. There's also a membership. We have free membership if you'd like to join for free, and you also get one of our 5 ultimate gifts, life literacy tools to help you start with identifying, understanding, create, collaborate, and communicate. So that's going to give you an idea of what we do. So go to the website and also subscribe to us on YouTube. Go and subscribe. That way you'll never miss an episode of Life Literacy, and bring in more experts just like Deborah here. And, it's just absolutely amazing. So thank you again, Deborah, for everything. And thank you to the audience for watching. And if you have any questions, put it in there. And also, if you don't have it, if you don't want to put it in there, message me and I'll get that message to her. Thank you.
Glad to help you.
Bye.